Welcome to the Science of Golf Performance. My name's Chris.
I'm Will.
And I'm Bobby.
Would you like to make your joke now?
Yeah, we only wear the logos of winners here, so we're wearing a Duke polo versus your Giants t-shirt that you decided to wear one time and disgrace the screen with.
We're in the off season for the Giants, and we look really good on the upcoming season.
You really don't.
No, we really do. I was at the state game. You lost to State. You lost to Wake Forest. I'm just saying. Anyway, back to topic.
One more games than you, but that's okay.
Well, we only won like 2. So.
Exactly. It's not hard to beat. Set the bar low.
Yeah, right. Well, set the bar low. That's a good segue
I was trying to do that. That was planned.
into what we're talking about today, which is the things to avoid in physical therapy. Or what are like the big missteps? A lot of people watching this, I'm sure you've had an injury because over half of golfers do at some point in time. Yeah. If you're over the age of 50, there's probably
like a
shoulder
100% chance.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Something's going to bug you at some point. You've probably made your way through the rehab world, whether it was chiro or PT, your ortho, primary care, whatever it is. Yeah. So what we want to do is kind of have a little fun today, talk about some of the funniest yet worst stories that we've encountered in our practice, and hopefully help you to avoid the same fates as some of these golfers fallen before you.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with one of my favorites. So had someone come in, they were on a golf trip and sadly broke their elbow from a golf cart accident, right? So we can do a lot of lower body stuff. That's fantastic, but he had to have a lot of surgery on the elbow. He came back in towards the end of his elbow rehab, right? And he said, hey, I know you do a lot more work with golfers than other physical therapists, so tell me what you think about this. It's like, okay, I'm going in with an open mind. He said, I got cleared to play golf today. And I said, that's wonderful. What did you do? And he said, well, they put one of those, purple 5-pound dumbbells in my hand, and I did a couple.
Better from here.
I did a couple swing motions.
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Does it hurt?" And he said, "Well, not really." And they said, "All right, you're good to go."
I mean, objective test, retest. I mean, I think that checks all the boxes.
It carries over.
Yeah, total transfer. I mean, the club weighs like what?
I guess it's not really.
I don't know if your regular stiff shafts weigh that much, but.
Is he making fun of me again?
I think so.
Yeah, I think he is too.
So it was a good idea, right? It was in the right, realm of what we want to look at, but it just, kind of completely missed the mark, especially when you take into account that a golf swing is anywhere from 80 to 100 something miles an hour with, maybe 1 pound device. So yeah, just kind of waving a 5-pound dumbbell around doesn't quite cut it.
Never mind the impact or vibration that's going to come up through the repaired elbow.
Start up tall first.
But yeah, so I think the point of that is that doesn't count as being returned to sport, right?
We still had a lot of stuff to work on.
Yeah. And so I think that's the big thing. I think some of the stories that we'll talk about is when you're looking at getting back into golf, there should hopefully be pre-test information, so you should know kind of where you were beforehand. So if you're not hurt right now is a great time to go do that. If you actually go to our home assessment, it's free on our website. I think we're putting the link up now. It's either below or above me. I don't know. That's the ceiling. That's a lot. Yeah, no, not there. But basically, you can right now, before you figure out what are all your rotational mobility ranges of motion, you can figure out what your power metrics are. Check what your club head speed is, and then you're probably at some point going to get hurt, as dark as that sounds. But then when you're coming out of your rehab, you can bring to your physio or your chiro, whoever's rehabbing you, your athletic trainer, if you're in college, hey, this is where I was before I got hurt, at least on these minimum MVP, these minimum viable performance measures, right? Where am I now? And that can at least start to be a metric to get back to play. Right.
Absolutely. And I think it's one thing you can learn from too, Instagram is one of the worst out there. People posting videos of, doing whatever it is. I saw a video last week of this guy, he was doing the row machine, he was doing the row thing, except that he had it flipped up. He was working on his fishing motion, and it's that doesn't carry over necessarily to improving your fishing game. But, I think the lesson here is that just because you're doing the motion doesn't mean it's going to improve on your game. The golf swing, as you just talked about, Chris, you can break it down into rotational power, especially. It's one of the quickest swings or quickest movements in all sports. So just because you're swinging a 5-pound weight around, it's not going to translate. You got to work on those rotational centers. That's the big thing too.
I think 5-pound weight's a little bit on the wrong side of the strength speed continuum, but
A little gray area that we try to completely avoid because it's a complete waste of our time, right? So
yeah, I think one of my favorite stories is was after what was it? I think it was might have been like a knee scope. Or something. It was not like it wasn't a major knee surgery, but they'd been going to PT. They came in obviously for like a golf evaluation to get back to playing. They've been cleared to play. They've been playing for probably 2 to 4 weeks at that point. And they came in. And so they said, yeah, it's nice to meet you. You know, what have you been doing? Oh, I'm going to PT. Yeah, fantastic. This is great. Like, going to be easy. Just transition right into the performance.
Right.
So I said, so what have you been doing? He said, oh, it's been awesome, man. I've been bringing my clubs. I said, wait, bringing your clubs to PT? Yeah, bringing my clubs. Yeah, it's golf-specific rehab. Okay, sure, yeah. So he kind of did the nod. Yeah. Okay. Oh, tell me more. And he said, oh, it's been great. We've been standing on an inverted ball that kind of you balance a Bosu ball. I work on one-legged balance.
Is that still in the corner back over there? Yeah. Oh, I thought I got rid of that last one.
I don't know if we dusted it off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm standing on one foot. I'm making turns. I'm working on swinging on one leg and making my turn better that way. I said, oh, that's great. I said, how are your rotary centers? You know, you're coming back from a knee injury. I said, how are the hips and how's everything there? And it was his, I think he was lefty, and it was his lead knee.
Ooh.
So it must have been his right side.
Well, a lot of work on
so
that.
I was like, oh, that's great. Like, so hips, they did a lot of work on the hips. He goes, well, no, they didn't touch me. I brought my club. I was golf-specific rehab. I brought my clubs. Oh boy. Yeah. So basically they had been just doing all these different body weight motions and balance with a golf club, and once he could walk pain-free, he's good for golf. And so we go and we get him on the table. His hip rotation, so normal for him, I think he was late 40s, maybe early 50s. Normal for that age group is like 45-ish is kind of what you're looking for. He might have been 15 generously. And you figure if you can't rotate into that lead side on a hip, you're going to end up torquing the knee a little bit.
That's going to put a lot of pressure on that knee, especially with any type of surgical repair that was done. That's the first thing we want to check.
He had a meniscectomy, so they took out part of the meniscus. So think about the more grinding that we're going to see on that, right? And I mean, to add insult to injury, T-spine might have been 30, which we'd like to see, 60 at that point.
Right, yeah.
So that was about half. And then his shoulder range of motion, ideally we'd like to see the forearm get beyond spine angle. I think he was at least equal to spine angle in that scenario. So, but I mean, dude was screwed, right? Yeah. But he had been totally cleared by the doctor, by the PT. So I think that the point here is, if it looks like the golf swing, I don't know how much more we can hammer this in, but if it looks like the golf swing, that does not make it golf-specific rehab. No. And really, you need, whatever you are coming back from, like, make sure you're checking the 4 rotary centers. Like, go to that home assessment. I think we'll have Caleb put the link up above or below or to the side, maybe just over his face. But go there and just see where you're at. See where you're at right now, and check your rotary centers. If you're coming off of a surgery, bring it into your physio or your chiro or your doctor and say, hey, can you help me run through these tests? I just want to see if I'm good or not. Mm-hmm. If you fail any of those rotational issues or rotational centers, and you have issues there, you're not good to return to sport right now. Good news is you're with a physio, you're with someone who can put their hands on you and make a fast fix for you. Right. It shouldn't take you more than 4 weeks to fix all that stuff and be good to go.
Right. I think I kind of want to touch on a little bit of what we see commonly gets missed in physical therapy, right? All physical therapists at this time, and chiropractors, anyone that's doing rehab, the level of education in the past 20 years has just drastically improved, right? It's much more thorough. Everyone has now a doctorate level of education, right? Sorry. You missed it by a year or something.
Yeah, I'm not smart enough to have a doctorate.
So there's a large body of knowledge, right? But applying it specifically to sports is a whole nother level of specialization, right? And so one thing I always talk to rehab professionals about is understanding, that person in front of you and what activity they're trying to get back to, right? A lot of people like to joke that golfers aren't athletes. Your 65-year-olds that's, playing on the weekends is still swinging, 90 miles an hour. And that's on the low end, right? We have folks that are in their, mid 60s, even in their 70s that are over 100 miles an hour. If you see 100 miles an hour in, Major League Baseball radar, you're going, that dude's insane, right? So understanding this is a really high-speed sport, and if you don't get your athlete ready for that, you're leaving them susceptible to even more injury than they came into the first place, right? And then also understanding that it's a rotational sport, so just the fact that you can walk or get up out of a chair does not prepare you for that type of rotation that you're going to take.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to add on to that, on the other half, with not talking with clinicians, but talking with patients who are coming in, we saw this a couple times this week with a couple evals. Is people have come in for, say, PT or have had previous PT, say from like a hip replacement or something.
Right.
And it's like, okay, so what'd you do? And it's like, well, I did banded walks, stuff like that. It's like, that's great. So you did some strength stuff. What about the mobility piece? It's like
Strength.
Yeah, right. Strength,
Yes.
right?
Let's watch the TheraBand episode on that to get a more in-depth.
Maybe I've gotten stronger and I can break one now.
Probably not.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a fun. Was that an outtake or was that actually in the episode?
I
You
think
couldn't.
that was in there.
Yeah.
It might be on the blooper reel later. We'll see.
So I'm pretty sure when I was wearing my Giants shirt, I broke one. It must have been the strength of the team
Well, I
coming
think
through
it's-
me as opposed to your two shirt.
It was a metaphor for the team breaking your back, and you're breaking your will to watch the sports and be a fan.
I think that's more accurate.
The Giants have broken the will of many fans, but we will persevere. We will push on.
So back to my point.
Yeah. We digress.
So I think, one of the greatest things is like, they come in and we say, well, what type of manual stuff did they do with you? And it's just so our answer, it's like, what is that? And so for a lot of people, it's like they've never had like the hand, a therapist work with them, with their hands. And it's like, that's so key. It's one of the biggest things we do is, work on, muscle release movements and basically work on to improve that rotational centers, such as like with the TFL. A lot of people don't even know what that is. It's a huge rotational muscle in the hip, and we've talked about that in other videos.
Absolutely.
Maybe tensor fasciolata. Maybe Caleb can put that picture up for everybody so they can see where it is.
Absolutely. It's right
over
here.
my face.
But yeah, so it's just one of those things that it's so key. And if we're missing out on that aspect of therapy, it's, we're missing out a large portion of what we could be getting to, our potential to really be improving on our skills and our abilities.
Anything else? Any other funny stories you want to add on, or?
No, I think it's important for people to, like, I really want you to take away is that, like, don't waste time on, like, if especially in therapy. I think one of my biggest kind of frustrations is we give people these exercises and they come like 3 times a week, 2 times a week, and they do the same set of exercises. Like, you should be drastically improved. Like, you should be out if you're looking at returning to golf. And if you're using a TheraBand or a band for more than like a warm up,
Right.
like, you're not doing what you need to be doing. Like, you need to be with load. There's something with speed. It needs to look like you're doing performance based training.
Right.
If you're not doing that, you're not sweating, you're not sore after, like muscle sore, not like talking like you had your hip replaced and your hip is sore. Like, that's a different story. But
I was gonna say, that's a longer episode.
yeah, but like, you should be to the point where you're pushing your body to the point that when you go out and play, there is no question you're going to be okay.
Right.
And I think that's the problem is people say, oh yeah, you're cleared for golf. And they go, okay, see how it goes.
Right.
That is, you are not prepared to return to sport or to golf at that point.
Yeah. So sport-specific training isn't just bringing your clubs to the clinic?
No, it is not. Swinging overspeed sticks is not return to sport training.
Oh yeah.
That's a great way to hurt yourself after rehab.
Yeah.
No, it's getting yourself, and we've talked about this a lot of other episodes. But like, you got to build a good, strong strength basis that is not going to be built with bands or sit to stands with your body weight out of a chair.
Right. Or even 15-pound kettlebells.
Correct.
Right.
Right. So
yeah.
Anyway, before we continue on this rant, we should probably end the episode. So appreciate you hanging out with us today. If you've found this episode helpful, please share it with your friends, give us a like, and long live the Giants.